We're going to go ahead and get started. First, we're going to go to Old Faithful, CNBC, and talk about what happened when the student loan started back up. Yes, if you didn't know, it wasn't going to start back up smoothly, but hey, let's get some data and let's get an article more reputable than myself. Even though I would say I'm pretty reputable now with the internet timestamps. Shout out to Gary Vee. All right. Inaccurate bills, hours on the phone, student loan borrowers re-enter a very messy system. I can't wait to see what kind of data we see. I know some people got bills that were like almost for their whole damn balance. Like it was bad. This is by Annie Nova and Jared Mitovich. All right. And so again, this is earlier in 2023, so October 22nd. All right. Biden administration restarted student loan bills for 40 million Americans this month. I wouldn't just put it on the Biden administration per se. Right here, I go already critiquing the article. The Trump administration put the student loans in forbearance, the pandemic type of forbearance, and then the Biden administration inherited it, so they could either continue extending the forbearance, which they did not put in place, or they could put it back on. Excuse me for the podcast listeners. I'm taking more breaks than normal. Again, I'm not under the. I guess I'm like right under the weather, but I stay hydrated. I keep drinking. All right. So far, the transition is proving painful for many borrowers. Oh, I wonder if somebody could have said, hey, when these student loans kick back on, it's going to be a mess. Oh, wait. I already said that. Here we go. Look at Vice President Harris. And that's, I can't remember his name, but he's Secretary of Education. Oh, here we go. His name here, Miguel Cardona. I knew it was a Hispanic name, but I didn't want to, say that and then it wasn't because then I'd look bad on the internet forever. All right. Let's just go with Amber Lee McGahee. A librarian in Pennsylvania was not worried about the restart of student loan payments. I don't know why. Oh, okay. I told you I don't read this article ahead of time. She was because she was done with her debt. Oh, no. Or she thought she was. Oh, no. Yes, and for those who never listened before, I do not read these articles ahead of time. As you can see, in August, she applied. Why would you apply for the public student loan forgiveness with her loan? Okay, she applied with MOHELA. MOHELA not going to forgive your loan. They the one who went to court saying, hey, we can't have this done. Even though they didn't go to court. But, that district, whatever that district is that they're in, I think it's 4. Or they're in 6. I don't know. Whatever district they're in, that the state of Missouri is in, they're the ones who really got this kicked up at the federal level to the Supreme Court. The PSFL program, all right, it allows you to get forgiveness after 120 payments, aka 10 years, at least 10 years. Okay, Amber Lee thought that was going to happen. Her information was reviewed by CNBC, and it shows that she made 125 qualifying payments. Who cares if you think how many qualifying payments you made? When you apply for this forgiveness, the public student loan forgiveness, and you don't get it, it doesn't matter at all. They don't give a damn how many qualifying payments you made. Who cares if you made 125? They still don't forgive your stuff. She got sent a bill for $625 due on October 7th. Good God. The payment started back up October 1st. They said in 6 days, we need almost $700 from you, Amber Lee. I panicked. She's 36 years old. So that means she's roughly been paying these student loans since she was 26. She made 125 payments since she was 26. And that roughly shakes out because being she's a librarian, she might have went and got her master's. Why do you need to get a master's to be a librarian? I don't know. I thought they might not teach people this anymore. But when I was growing up in school, not that I'm old, right? I'm 30, but I'll be 31 this year, but I'm a 90s baby. When we went to the library, they showed us how to find books. Now, I'm not saying librarians don't do a whole bunch of stuff, but what do they do to require you to get a master's? And that's really the conversation. Look, we're talking about student loans. Can I actually get through an article when we talk about student loans? We need to, regardless of pricing, right? It is what it is. At the end of the day, the colleges do not force people to go to college, right? They can set their price, whatever they want to be. There's a reason that private institutions usually cost the most because they're private and not publicly funded. And hey, you want to set that price, you want to set that price. You don't have to pay for a Honda Accord. You don't have to pay for Mercedes-Benz. You can get a Honda Accord. And not to mention, in the student loan episode that I did, I showed that tuition, which is all you have to pay, and some other fees, but tuition, which is what you pay to actually get your degree, room and board, meal plan, things like that. You do not need to pay those things to get your degree. Tuition still does not cost that much. You can get a college degree for under $50,000 and probably under $40,000, maybe even under 20 if you choose to go to community college route and then transfer to a 4-year degree with all your credits from the community college. College is probably still on a tuition basis less than $30,000 at your state school. And considering, I believe only North Dakota and South Dakota, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, I believe those are only the handful of states whose state school is not D1 single A. I mean, it's not, the big, large school. Maryland, the schools, University of Maryland, all the state schools are named after the state, as you can imagine. But no, Utah, Pac-12, I believe they're still in the Pac-12. I don't know. They keep doing all this, changing all the schools around for their conferences. But Hawaii and maybe Alaska. I don't know if Alaska has a state school. But, I mean, if you think about the state that you live in, you likely have a pretty large state school. If it's not, it's probably the biggest school in the state you live in. University of Georgia, University of Alabama. Shout out to what Georgia did to Florida State. Florida, not Florida State, right? Some states even have multiple, quote unquote state schools, but some of them have higher tuition, right? University of, Mississippi, Ole Miss, Virginia, West Virginia. Like they're all just name, just say whatever state you're in. And it's likely that school, when you look at that tuition, is probably going to run you max anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 a semester, which is going to be from $10,000 to $16,000 a year. And again, if you take the community college route and then switch over and just go there for 2 years, told you I was sick. If you just go there for 2 years instead of the 4 year, you cut not that price in half, but you cut it probably close to 30% at least because of how cheap community college is. Where community college, you're just paying for the classes. Do the same thing when you go to a 4-year university and get your 4-year degree. All right, now, situation you go get your master's and or doctorate, look, please be in a degree field where you actually need it. If you're not going to be a doctor or a lawyer, you're hard pressed to say that you need to go get your master's. Shout out to getting a master's in early education. Why do you need so much knowledge to teach small children? Right? It's different if you're going to be like a psychologist, but you're not. You're just a teacher or a principal. Like, why do you need all this education to be an elementary school principal? What are you doing? The people here can barely read and write. You just really need to make sure nobody hurts themselves. But hey, I don't have that level of education. So as a master, I got my bachelor's. But speaking from what you need to know to work in a school, but I went to school. I went to college as well, right? And I'm like, my goodness, you know how much? And then the amount of debt you take out for versus how much money you can make. Principals can't make a lot of money, but it's in general, even if you become a teacher. It's like, how much did you pay for this? To not make a lot of money, right? On the back end, teachers are in a position where they work for the state so they can get this PSLF. But as we can see, back to Amber Lee here, who was a librarian, again, worked for the state. She didn't get that money. She said she couldn't afford it. Now, the question is not whether or not she could or could not afford it. The question is, before your student loans went in forbearance, what was your student loan payment / were you making it? That should be the question. I don't care if you can afford it now, because if it's more than what it previously was, and that makes sense. All right. And then when the last time as well you applied for your that you made a payment. Okay, she contacted MOHELA. She couldn't get anyone on the phone because MOHELA is a mess right now. All of my wait. Jesus. Shout out to Jesus. All of our wait times were 100 minutes. Well, you have the library, so never mind. What's really going on there? She said, I tried sending email messages and they went unanswered, but they did. Okay, Biden administration. Okay, they started student loans. Cool. March. Okay, we talked about that. And I'm trying to get better, y'all, skimming through stuff. Still got the janky ass mouse. We're going to get a new mouse this year. When this year? I don't know. But we're going to get a new mouse. So far, the transition back to payments has proven painful, as Cory stated on the Court and Full Effect podcast. For many borrowers who complain of long wait times, they shouldn't need a wait time. They should have started their repayment smoothly, right? If everybody's calling in at MOHELA, essentially, because I believe MOHELA, nobody, a client who has student loans at MOHELA, I believe MOHELA completely dropped the ball on this. Errors with their bills, lost account information, and deny relief for which they believe they were eligible. Look, we keep telling y'all about applying for this relief. Issues can have devastating impacts on household finances. Consumer advocates say, what? Let's be clear. If your payment was less than or equal to what it was before this forbearance, you shouldn't have any issue. I mean, the fact that you can't make your payment, I guess, puts you in a better situation. And obviously, they're going to fix this. When does it get fixed? I don't know. Excuse me, but yeah. Being forced to make incorrect monthly payments places additional strain on borrowers' monthly finances and puts some in a position of being unable to keep up with their other bills. Yeah, if you're in a situation where you got a bill, your statement was for your monthly payment was more than what it should be. The question is, could you have paid off your debt before they started back up? Because you had what? Was it 42 months? What's March to August? That's 8. That 44. Yeah, 44 months. Yeah, almost a year. You had almost 3.5 years. You did have 3.5 years. Yeah, March to August. Started back up technically in October. So it's March 2020 to September of 2023. No payments at all. So yes, you had, so that's 6. Yeah, so you had 42. You had 3.5 years and no payments. Now, let's be clear. 42 is almost 60, right? It's pretty close. Another 18 months. 60 is half of what you need for the public student loan forgiveness, even though people aren't getting it. But it's like, my goodness. Outstanding education debt, okay, 1.7 trillion. Average loan balance at graduation has tripled since the 90s, 30,000 from 10,000. Now, the question is, have incomes tripled? All right, anyways, around 7% of student loan borrowers are now more than $100,000 in debt. See, only 7%. So then when you hear people complain about, like, it's like, then what people are going to say is, well, of that demographic, I mean, of that 7%, what's the demographic, right? So are certain people overexposed to this 100K? Some people were saying that for the up to 20K in forgiveness, there was a certain demographic, I believe it was white men, that were overexposed in that 40%. So it's like, does the degree you got pay you how much money you took out for it in less than 5 years? If not, do not get that degree. Changes add uncertainty for service. Okay. Carlina Rodriguez, director of the Education and Debt Consumer Assistance Program, nonprofit in New York, says she's never seen this kind of chaos in the student loan space before. I said Carolina Rodriguez. Miss Rodriguez, I could have, look, services are having a very hard time getting people back into repayment. Rodriguez said, I bet they did. People haven't had to make payments for 42 straight months. What did you think was going to happen? It's going to flip a switch? People have moved, and I don't know if we'll see this, but how did their loans just restart? I mean, it was based off the old balance, the new balance. They haven't had to make this payment. Like, did they get a new interest rate? Like, all these different type of things. People might have refinanced to a new company. Like, there's all these different type of things. People got moved to a different loan service provider. All this information flowing. Then you just got to turn it right back on. Come on now. And the Commerce of Times federal student loan system is famously complicated, right? There are some 12 plans for repaying your student loans, a web of forgiveness options, and a soup of wonky terms such as forbearance and deferment. This is what you need to do if you have student loans and you no longer want to have student loans. You pay them off. In a conversation, I could just not talk about student loans anymore. But people don't want to pay off their student loans. They want somebody else to do it for them. And look what happens. This is a loan service provider, by the way. This is a person with your information. And if they can't, if MOHELA is struggling to just start repayments back, which is, by the way, as someone who holds, debt, particularly student loan debt, you would think making it so that people can pay you back along with interest would be something you know how to do. And y'all want to make sure they keep track of your forgiveness payments, please. Your qualifying payments, as they say. Excuse me. Student loan debt, again, 1.8 trillion almost. Okay, there's talking about changes to the lending system. Government has made all types of announcements. And it's confusing people. I bet it is. Yeah, okay, the 20,000 forgiveness, that didn't occur. Okay, 2024 campaigns. This is going to be another talking point for President Biden when he runs. 12-month on-ramp. Yes, all these various things that they're doing to help you get your student loans back in some type of good standing or get your payments restored. All these different things they do to make sure you don't pay off your student loan debt. I believe one of my clients, their student loan payment, they have less than 20,000. I think their payment on the income-based repayment plan is like $5. $5. Let's just say it's 10,000. Let's just say it's 10,000 and no interest. That 2,000. So if they pay $5 on 10,000 a month into 10,000, it's going to take them 2,000 months, which is 100. Let me make sure I did this math right. Okay, that's 2,000 months and divide by 12. It's going to take them 166 years. How many months is that? It's going to take them. So you're going to die with the debt. By the way, when you die with the debt does go away. So they are going to make sure you don't have the debt anymore. You just got to die for. Now, if you got some money, I believe even with student loans, they're going to take what they can out of your assets. And then if there's still something left over from a debt standpoint, then that gets forgiven. All right. Flawed data affects save applicants. Yeah, borrowers have had trouble benefiting from this new repayment option called saving on a valuable education. Rodriguez said many borrowers are getting billed for different amounts than they expected. Here we go. She says she worked with a borrower who anticipated a monthly payment of $400, then got a bill for $2,000. Unreal. 5 times? 5 times is crazy. Hey, you're not saving that $1,600. They want that money. And let's be clear, you probably need to put the $2,000 towards your student loans so you can pay it off. Like this $400 is probably still gonna put you in negative amortization or negative AM loan to where the payment you're making / your minimum payment doesn't even satisfy the interest, and therefore you make your payment. There's still interest sitting there along with the principal. You never pay any money towards the principal, and then when you get charged interest again, the interest accrues interest, and then the principal as well. Which in short is how compound interest is calculated. And in short, now you got compound interest working against you. So when you hear people talk about compound interest, investing, retirement accounts, taxable brokers, whatever it is, stock market, that compound interest that they're talking about that helps you build wealth, that is the same math, the same compound interest that is working against you when it comes to your student loans or any loan. If you are not making enough to satisfy the interest or there's interest outstanding, however you want to look at it. Some of you went deferment. It's now you got interest sitting there, which is one of the worst things you can do with student loans. I don't know all the worst things you can do, but you put it in deferment. Now you just got, hey, you don't have to make this payment. You're not penalized, quote unquote, for not making the payment, but you are penalized. You have all this interest that's accruing. Then you really look at your balance. You're like, dang, I got more interest than I did when I started, and I got more interest than principal. And it's like, well, what'd you do? So I had in deferment for like 1,000 years. It's like, well, that's why it's gonna take 1,000 years to pay it off. All right. Problems with the SAVE plan. Hundreds of thousands of borrowers affected are due to flawed data provided by the education department. Here's one of the issues. For the forgiveness, the education department, this is kicking my ass. The education department, I believe they were the ones that were going to execute the forgiveness. And so if you already had something set up with them, you didn't have to submit the information. When we talk about something like when we got the stimulus checks, when President Biden was, who did his, and when President Trump was in office, those were just sent to you. Most people didn't have to do anything. It's because the Department of Treasury sent those out. And the Department of Treasury is over the IRS, and the IRS, that's pretty much everyone's information, assuming you're not, doing tax avoidance. And so, tax evasion. You can do tax avoidance, not tax evasion. I told you I'm getting tired. As long as you're not doing tax evasion. Saying all that to say, the information that the education department has on a financial standpoint or accuracy of it is not the level that the Treasury has. So why would we think the education department was going to have enough information on people where they currently live at? Things of that nature. Education department might have your parents' address. Depending on when you apply for the student loan, technically, when you live with your parents, it's been 10, 15. This person is 36. Might be 10, 15 years since you updated your address. Whatever.